You've been told to earn your confidence, to achieve it through success, to justify it through results, to be liked first, respected second, and then maybe allowed to be confident. That belief is your first leash. You think confidence is a side effect of winning, but the truth is colder confidence is what creates the win. It comes before the results, and those who wait for permission will die waiting. Look around. The men who dominate the room don't ask for space, they take it. The ones you fear, the ones you admire, the ones who say little but control everything. They didn't apply for confidence like a permit. They assumed it, wore it, projected it until the room surrendered. Confidence is not given. It is taken. This is the first lie that must be dismantled, that you must deserve to feel powerful. That confidence is a democratic reward granted by society, peers, or past achievements. No, it's a weapon, and like all weapons, it belongs to those who wield it, not those who seek approval to carry it. The system is designed to make you hesitate. The more you doubt yourself, the easier you are to guide. The more you seek permission, the more valuable your obedience becomes. Confidence keeps getting pushed to the end of the line after performance, after results, after approval. But Machiavelli knew perception is dominance, and hesitation is weakness. This is Machiavellian rule number 1. Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are. Confidence, then, is not about belief. It's about behavior. You don't need to feel like a king to act like one. You just need to act and let others do the emotional guessing, because humans respond to cues, not your internal self-doubt. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you lowered your voice so others felt comfortable? When did you say maybe when you meant no? When did you hold back the truth so you wouldn't be disliked? Those are not acts of kindness. Those are signals. And signals train people to ignore you. Society conditions you to become nice, but nice is not respected. Nice is tolerated. Nice is stepped over. You've been trained to wait for external permission before asserting internal power. But the moment you hesitate to speak, to decide, to lead, someone else fills that vacuum. And that's how confidence is stolen from you. Silently, repeatedly. Watch a man who enters a meeting and looks around before sitting. Now watch the man who walks in, doesn't smile, chooses the central seat, and waits for silence before speaking. The difference isn't status. The difference is assumption. One seeks acceptance, the other assumes dominance. Real confidence comes before the evidence. And that's what makes it so rare. Because most men want proof first. They want guarantees. But power is for those who move without needing one. This is the paradox. If you wait to feel confident, you will never act. But if you act before you feel it, others begin to follow, and their reaction creates the proof you were waiting for. You lead by behaving as if the outcome has already been decided. You don't ask if you belong, you behave like you own the room, and people adjust to that energy. Because humans follow hierarchy, and hierarchy is rarely spoken. It's signaled, and confidence cold. Still, unapologetic confidence is the first signal of dominance. That's what Machiavelli understood. That the world doesn't care what you feel. It responds to what you show. So stop seeking permission. Assume it. Project it. Own the space before anyone decides if you're allowed to. They'll follow, or they'll fear you. Either way, you win. You walk into a room. Everyone is speaking. But one man makes the room fall quiet without raising his voice, without demanding attention. Why? Because he radiates the one thing you've been taught to suppress: unapologetic presence. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't fidget or smile for approval. He's not looking to fit in. He's looking to assess and maybe conquer. That's what confidence without permission looks like. Not loud, not boastful, just undeniable. You've spent years overthinking your every move. You've tried to be likable, adaptable, emotionally aware. You've been trained by school, by women, by corporate HR to be cooperative. And they told you that makes you a good man, but you're not here to be a good man. You're here to be a man they can't ignore, Let's be precise. There's a science to how humans read dominance. It's not about muscle or money, it's about signals. The man who moves slowly signals control. The man who pauses before speaking signals authority. The man who doesn't flinch at silence signals inner certainty. People don't follow leaders because they're correct. They follow leaders because they don't ask. You've been conditioned to think that power is loud, that confidence looks like charisma. But Machiavellian power is colder, quieter, more psychological. It is better to be feared than loved. Machiavelli wrote, "If you cannot be both." What does that mean in real life? It means stop trying to be liked, because the more you seek approval, the more you dilute your signal. When you nod too often, when you rush to agree, when you apologize for your tone before you've even spoken, you're broadcasting one thing: insecurity. Confidence without permission requires stillness. Not passivity, stillness. Stillness is what happens when a man is done performing, when he no longer tries to explain his presence, when he's already decided that his existence is justified. Now let's look at environments that expose these dynamics. In dating, most men wait for signals of interest before behaving confidently. That's why they fail. The man who gets chosen is not the one who guesses correctly, he's the one who makes others guess about him. He stares longer, speaks less, doesn't react to rejection. And because of that, he becomes the mystery women want to solve. In the workplace, you think your competence will speak for itself. It won't. People are promoted for being perceived as leaders, not for being the smartest. And those who are perceived as leaders do not seek permission to speak, to critique, or to take credit. They act as if they belong at the top, and over time, others confirm that belief. This is environmental warfare, and you are always being watched. Everything: your walk, your tone, your eye contact is under constant unconscious evaluation. And the ones who win are not the ones who explain themselves the best. They are the ones who need no explanation. This is the Machiavellian ideal: appear confident. Be feared if necessary. Never reveal your full intention. Because once you remove your need to be seen as good, you become free to be effective. Let's go deeper. The most dangerous man in any room is the one who does not seek connection. He speaks, but never pleads. He smiles, but never performs. He listens, but always filters. Because his goal is not to bond, it's to assess, to control, to reposition. And when conflict arises, as it always does, he doesn't panic. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't soften. Because his identity doesn't come from how he's treated. That's real confidence. It's not arrogance. It's detachment. The weak man seeks comfort in agreement. The powerful man thrives in psychological separation. He doesn't mirror the room. He forces the room to mirror him. That's the man you must become. Not louder, not kinder, just colder, just untouchable. And it starts with one decision: to stop waiting. You don't need permission to speak like a king. You don't need validation to behave like you belong. You need only one thing: the removal of hesitation. Because once hesitation is gone, the room listens, the world adjusts, and silence becomes your ally. Power begins the moment you no longer need. Not money, not sex, not praise, especially not validation. Everything you need from others becomes a lever they can pull. And the more you need, the more you obey. Look closely. Every time you've tried to be charming, it's been rooted in hunger. Every time you tried to explain yourself, you were negotiating your value. Every time you wanted someone to understand you, you gave up leverage, because now your confidence depends on their emotional response. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He who builds on the people builds on mud. The moment your power depends on someone else's reaction, your foundation is soft, unstable, open to manipulation. You think your honesty will earn you admiration. It won't. It will earn you leverage. But for someone else, because the more you reveal, the easier you are to control. Let's talk reversal. When you need something: attention, recognition, affection, you naturally chase it. You seek eye contact, you overtalk. You check your phone after sending a message. You wait for the reply. That is modern-day submission. But when you reverse it, you strip the value from their reaction. You stay detached. You go quiet. You vanish after impact. You let the silence hurt. And that's when the power flips. The one who waits becomes the one who wonders. Most men don't realize this. Need is a visible signal. People can smell it. It comes through your eyes, your posture, your pacing, and it triggers either pity or disrespect. The antidote: reversal. You stop chasing. You stop trying to clarify. You speak once and you leave it hanging. You do not ask if they're okay. You do not check how you made them feel, because power is preserved in ambiguity. Let's make it real. A man in business presents a strong idea, then immediately starts listing disclaimers. Of course, this could be improved. I'm open to other thoughts. I just wanted to share. And the room sees weakness. Why? Because he diluted his position. He begged for safety. Now contrast that with the man who says his idea, leans back, and goes quiet. That silence, that detachment signals ownership. He doesn't care if you agree. He knows what he sees. In relationships, the same law applies. The man who texts repeatedly, who over-explains, who needs to be understood, loses her attraction. But the man who disappears after tension, who holds stillness like a blade, she thinks about him for weeks. Why? Because he's not asking for her softness. He's forcing her to feel his absence. That's reversal. When you stop trying to fill the space with validation, you become the space others feel uncomfortable in. That's why most people can't handle silence. They fill it with noise, apologies, jokes, emotions. But when you refuse to speak into the silence, you force others to reveal themselves. Silence is your weapon, because silence makes them reach, and every time they reach, you gain control. You've been trained to fear disconnection, to fill it, heal it, patch it up quickly. But power is created when you do not repair the tension. The man who can sit in unresolved conflict without emotional collapse is rare and feared. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "A wise ruler ought never to keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interests." Translated for the modern man: don't honor emotional contracts that weaken your position. Don't give comfort that's used to soften your edge. In every moment of negotiation, whether social, romantic, or professional, you are either the one needing or the one being needed. And the one who is needed always dictates the terms. So here's the reversal. From this moment forward, your silence is not absence, it's control. You speak once, you do not chase. You make the other side reach. And the more they reach, the less they resist. Because no one respects the man who wants to be liked, but they obey the man they cannot predict. And when your need disappears, so does their power. You want to be confident, then act like power is already yours, not when you feel ready, not when others clap for you. Now, in silence, in stillness, without permission. Most men wait for internal permission to act dominant. Once I make more money, once I look better, once I'm respected. But that's the trap. If you wait until you feel confident, you will always be 2 steps behind the men who simply decide to behave as if the war is already won. This is the core of the cold ritual. You detach from emotions. You reject the need for evidence. You move first. Look at history. Kings didn't walk into courtrooms explaining themselves. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon without consulting anyone. Machiavelli praised Cesare Borgia, not because he was perfect, but because he acted as if power was his divine right. Even when the foundation was crumbling beneath him. That's what you must internalize. Power is not proven. Power is performed. When you hesitate, you leak. When you explain, you shrink. When you apologize for your boldness, you kill it. Confidence without permission isn't loud. It's not bragging or barking orders. It's a kind of emotional immunity. You are not cold because you lack feeling. You are cold because you refuse to let those feelings run your behavior. Let's ritualize this, not as motivation, as warfare. The cold confidence ritual begins when you walk into any room and act like you've already been chosen. You slow your pace. You scan. You don't smile out of fear. You offer no nervous energy. You make others adjust around you, not the other way around. You sit still in conversations. You don't rush to respond. You don't justify your silence. You look, then speak, if necessary. You do not fidget. You do not explain your tone. You speak in statements, not disclaimers, because men who operate like this are rare. And when something is rare, it becomes valuable. Even if you're broke, even if you're learning, even if you've failed 10 times, this behavior alone triggers respect. Because people don't follow perfection, they follow certainty. Want a psychological example? 2 men apply for a position. One lists his achievements, explains how passionate he is, adds nervous laughter between sentences. The other states, "I'm the one you need, and if not, someone else will get me." No resume needed. One seeks approval, the other signals self-sufficiency. Guess who gets remembered? This is not about arrogance. This is about assumption. Assume you belong. Assume your presence has gravity. Assume your words are sharp enough to cut and don't dull them for comfort. Even in romantic settings, she tests your nerves. She withdraws. She pushes, softens, then withdraws again, and most men panic. They chase. They talk it out. They try to explain they're not like other guys. But the man who holds still, who refuses to beg, refuses to clarify, refuses to collapse, becomes the very thing she can't control. And that makes him irresistible, because he doesn't need her reaction. He is already sure of his frame. That's the ritual. Power is acted, not requested. You train your body to speak the language of leadership before the world agrees with you. Because the world always agrees with the man who doesn't need it to. You stop responding to disrespect with emotion. You stop reacting to silence with panic. You stop needing recognition to feel valuable. You begin to walk like something is watching you. And you behave accordingly. That's not delusion, that's projection. Because humans mirror your self-perception. The man who doubts himself invites debate. The man who explains himself invites challenge. But the man who doesn't blink, he creates hesitation. And from that hesitation, he carves out power. Now ask yourself, what would your life look like if you no longer needed confirmation? What moves would you make today if you behaved like your outcome was already guaranteed? The answer is simple. You'd move quieter, you'd act sooner, you'd speak less and be obeyed more. That's the ritual. It doesn't require strength, only stillness. You were not born into a world that respects softness. You were born into a battlefield dressed as a society. And on this battlefield, you have 2 options: be feared or be forgotten, be irreplaceable or invisible. You don't need to believe it. But watch what happens when you go quiet for too long, they forget you. Watch what happens when you act too polite, they overstep. Watch what happens when you ask to be heard, they talk over you. You were raised in a world that tells you fear is bad, but fear is not evil. Fear is efficient. Fear is how empires are maintained when love fades. Fear is how respect survives betrayal. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to make you lovable. He wrote it to make you dangerous. It is much safer to be feared than loved, when one of the two must be lacking. And in your life, love will always be lacking. So fear must not. The problem is this: you've been taught to treat relationships, all relationships, like mutual therapy sessions. You're expected to be soft. You're expected to communicate gently. You're expected to never trigger discomfort. But when a man obeys this script, he becomes tolerable, never necessary. Fear doesn't mean cruelty. It means they calculate carefully before they move against you. It means they think twice before lying to you. It means they don't test your boundaries, because your silence is more unsettling than any threat. That's where power lives, in the uncertainty of what you might do. When your reactions are predictable, you're controllable. But when your boundaries are sharp, your presence still, and your silence unreadable, they respect you, even when they dislike you. And here's the brutal truth. Respect matters more than love, because love fades with familiarity. But respect deepens when boundaries are enforced. Look at how society rewards the predictable man. He's used for convenience. He's tolerated in meetings. He's invited. but never followed, because they know what he'll say, what he'll tolerate, and how far he'll go. He's not a threat. He's a utility, but the feared man. He walks in and no one knows whether he'll agree or disappear, whether he'll bless you or destroy your opportunity with a single sentence, whether he'll reward loyalty or punish weakness. And that ambiguity makes him untouchable. You want to be that man. Not the loudest, not the kindest, the one they cannot afford to ignore, the one who doesn't raise his voice but causes silence when he speaks, the one who never brags but no one dares underestimate, the one who is not always liked but never disrespected. That is the doctrine of cold confidence. Stop aiming to be understood. Stop asking to be accepted. Stop diluting your presence just to keep the peace. Because peace without power is slavery, and love without fear is weakness waiting to be used. You think you need to heal to lead wrong. You need to detach. You think you need to be ready to act like a leader wrong. You need to act now so that readiness is forced into existence. The world doesn't wait for you to bloom. It moves past you. And if you're not felt, you're replaced. If you're not respected, you're reshaped. If you're not feared, you're used. You don't need permission. You don't need praise. You don't even need to be liked. You need to be recognized as someone who cannot be touched. So you walk in first. You speak second. You listen more than you talk. You remove emotion from every reaction. You kill the need for validation in every silence. And when they finally ask what changed about you, you don't explain. You don't reassure. You don't reflect. You stare back still, unreadable, and say nothing. Because once a man becomes silent, once a man stops asking, once a man detaches from all need, he becomes untouchable.